So I was checking out your boy Benjamin Hardy as I do, and he caught me with this phrase, and he was like, "Yeah, Dan Sullivan said." I'm like, "Okay," but he mentioned somebody else. I was like, "Who's this other person he mentioned?" And whenever you really want to learn something, or at least I do, whenever I hear who they reference or who they got it from or who they hang around with, or you like see pictures, like who's that guy in the background, I always want to look to that guy because whoever's in the foreground is spending all their time in the foreground while somebody in the background is actually doing stuff. So I'm always looking for the background guys. Anyway, I found this old podcast from 2016 where Dan Sullivan, the business and entrepreneur guru, trainer, coach, is talking with some other guy, Joe Polish, I believe his name is, or is that somebody else? But he was talking with the guy, and it talks about the whole concept of procrastination and things that bother you. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting because I procrastinate on things and things bother me. And he's got this concept of using procrastination as a way to figure out what to do next. And he calls this podcast The Joy of Procrastination. I don't know. Did you get a chance to listen to that? Because that was
I did not yet, but that's definitely on my to-do list. So break it down.
it's interesting. So without the hardcore academic study of Dr. Hardy, Dan Sullivan and this other guy go in deep on a lot of these concepts from actual practice out in the field. And one of the things was Dan Sullivan was like, why am I so upset with this thing I'm procrastinating on? Why does it bother me so much? And then he and his friend had this idea that, hey, listen, the things we really enjoy and the things that bring us a lot of money, we jump straight into. So what is procrastination telling us? And there's this whole long process. In fact, it's enough of a process and thought to have years worth of podcast episodes. So I'm not going to go through everything in it,
Oh, so
but
wait a minute, hold on. The podcast is about what, 50 episodes or so? 52
it,
episodes?
it's the joy of procrastination. So I don't know
Yeah,
how
so
many
it's
episodes
pretty
it
long.
is.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely got enough to go into it. And I see if you're Benjamin Hardy or somebody hanging around with all these people, how you would have just enough content for like ever if you're just hanging around with them. But the idea that gave me was when I was little, a lot of times I didn't like going to school, not because of school, just because of the stuff involved. It's
Mhm.
like my mom would be like, "Gotta make sure after school you go talk to Mrs. Nichols and do this." I'm like, "Oh, Miss Nichols, I don't want to deal with her." Okay, and then make sure that your lunch. And oh God, I have money. Why can't I just buy the school lunch? Why do I have to make this lunch? Make sure you. And there was all this just stuff, right? Like I already studied for the test. I don't need to bring the notes. And there's just all this stuff, and it was kid stuff, and it bothered me, and I didn't like dealing with it. I just wanted to study on my own and go to school without all the stuff. So I'd procrastinate. And that stuck with me for a while, just that idea, why am I procrastinating on that? And Dan Sullivan broke it down. He was like, yeah, all these little details and things, they shouldn't be a problem, but somehow they are. And if you start looking at them, maybe you can get rid of them, change up the idea a little bit, move things around. And sometimes it's little things, sometimes it's big things. And he even brought up the concept of sometimes you shouldn't be doing it, somebody else should be doing it, or, to
Mm,
our who, not how discussions.
mm.
There's basically some kind of leverage point that you need to insert into that procrastination to get you to where you need to be. And I did a simple thing. Now, for a while now, I've only been eating one meal a day. I was doing that in the middle of the day, like around lunchtime. So I get up, do some work, then around lunch, I'll have a sensible lunch and then make my way through the evening and just have a snack. The little effort of just taking my midday meal and pushing that to the end of the day, oh my God. That whole procrastination thing, I'm like trying to figure out, "Ugh, why don't I wanna finish the rest of the day after I eat in the middle of the day?" So I just wanna goof around, and if not that I was full, but for
Yeah.
whatever reason, I was procrastinating. That time of day thing with the one detail, I moved that to the end of the day, man, during the day, I'm proactive, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I have something to look forward to at the end of the night. I'm like, "Man, it's gonna be
Mm.
great. I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna really eat, it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be in my bed like a fat pig, just snoring and shit. It's gonna be great."
So what was the thing you were procrastinating on? Was it the meal, preparing the meal, or
No, whatever. But
The
But like,
meal was in the way of you, so it was an excuse to procrastinate on the other tasks you had to do. Is that correct?
yeah, so I would eat and then I find myself taking longer and longer to cook. And I'm like,
Gotcha.
hey, maybe I should cook with this. Maybe I should try this. Maybe I should go to the
Okay.
grocery store. And I was having fun doing that thing in the middle of the day. And it was causing me to not get to my core work.
Mhm.
I would extend, I'm supposed to, I don't need that long to cook and eat. It's just pretty quick. Blah, blah, but do what I got to do unless I'm eating with somebody. But yeah, when I'm like on my structured meals, I just get in, do it, and be out. But having it in the middle of the day, man, I'd start watching TV while I ate, and then it's, oh, I can binge watch, I can do this, and it was messing up the rest of the day. I would just procrastinate on whatever the end of the day had for me. So putting it at the end of the day, I get mad. I start shuffling my feet around 12 o'clock because I'm used to eating at that time. But then it's, ugh, get that shit out of here. Back to work. Boom. Productivity, son.
Nice. I love it. When I think about that, definitely so Dan Sullivan just saying procrastination is a good thing because it's a signal and it helps you unpack what the true problem is. And I like that because I experience it too all the time. It's like, why do I want to do this thing? And I think we had a long conversation, remember, about the who, not how,
Mhm.
about sometimes. So why am I procrastinating on getting a who, hiring a who into my team? And then remember, I said, okay, let me back that up. I was debating it with you when we did it offline. I said, well, maybe it's not so much I do need a who, but maybe I don't need the who to do the job yet. Maybe I need a who to teach me what to do.
Right.
And then I can hire the who on to do the what. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Like you go
Yeah. Yeah.
backwards. Sometimes you need a who because you're right. I'm like you a little bit. So I have to understand the process at least enough so I can understand who to put in there because it's a new process.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I procrastinate too is because I don't have the who, I don't know what to do. So that's a signal to me that maybe I did just need a who to train me on that. And so I found a who. I've been doing a lot with Facebook ads lately, and I found a who on Dan Henry's site, and he has his own little. His name is Hernan, and he has his own little school community, of course. And so
Mhm.
he's been breaking down a lot of things. I was like, oh, that's how this stuff works. And so it's just opened my eyes to like, okay, this is how I can run Facebook ads more effectively than I ever thought before. And it's so much clearer than when I tried to run it a year ago. I was like, oh, I do this and this happens. Ah, I lost all this money. Ah, it doesn't
Yeah.
work. So
Yeah.
to your point, Mr. Benja, and I appreciate we had that back and forth. The procrastination opened my mind up into where I'm missing with my who, not how.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I sent it to you because when you listen to it, it'll relate. It may open up a can of worms or it may just be enough for that one
Can of
episode.
worms.
But no, these were thoughts he was having back in 2016. So that was
Good
really
point.
interesting.
Was that before the who, not how? I don't know. Did he come up with that concept before 2016? I wonder if that was the beginning of it.
He did not mention, I don't think Benjamin Hardy was on the scene for Who Not How at the moment,
Mhm.
but Dan
Okay.
Sullivan was very clearly pointing out all those concepts. He's like, this, I need to find somebody to do this.
Mm.
And
Well, yeah,
he didn't
the
have the words who not how, but that's what
yeah.
he was expressing.
Yeah, I think the principles and the workflows and everything was already there. He just had Ben Hardy put
Yeah.
it into a thoughtful process. But yeah, I agree. Okay.
And
Love
as I said, Dan Sullivan's on this thing, and this may have been where you got some pushback from because I wasn't pushing back on you directly, but he's got this whole concept of just like leverage in general, whether it's a person, a technology, waiting on the right timing for something to be released. So he's got this whole thing on just leverage in general. And I think it's been boiled down to who, not how, which is very catchy. It's just,
Okay, so you say the who is basically if you unpack it, there's more to the who and what that means, and that could be a bunch of other things. No, I love it. I'll definitely unpack it. Ultimately, it's about the games you play to get you moving. Really, look, it's
yeah,
simple. It's not hard. It's basically 10x. Let's be real.
yeah,
Grant Cardone
yeah,
hit it right. If you can do more, you'll be more. But the challenge is how do you do more?
yes,
And that's those games you play with yourself, whether it's Ben Hardy changing your past, gives you energy to do the future, or thinking about the who they can get leverage to do the work for you, or getting the who to help train you. All of it helping you to just do more.
yes, exactly.
So I think that's the key. So anyway, I digress. But Mr. Benja, we're gonna write a book one day, man. We're gonna distill all this and we're just gonna
Uh,
say wisdom from the cloud. Or wisdom.
we'll get Benjamin Hardy to act like he wrote it. Have
Man,
have
yeah, we'll
every
just
have everybody fooled.
no, how about this? We'll call it Benjamin Harvey. We'll put
Oh,
a pseudonym. And so people would think it's Benjamin Hardy. It's a pseudonym of our name. It's a it's a mix. That's not the
Huh?
word, but it's the mix of our name.
Who these black jokers? I thought this was
Yeah.
about to
Who's
be
Benjamin Harvey? So anyway,
what
I